I'm Jamie Hooper with RE/MAX Crest and jamiehooper.com, and today we're going to talk about the reasons why the Vancouver market is slowing and what has caused it. As mentioned in the introduction, I want to talk a little bit today about the Vancouver real estate market, why it's slowing down, and what have been the causes of it. So let's talk a bit about supply and demand, because that's what drives the Vancouver or any real estate market for that matter. When there are an abundance of buyers and not many sellers, that is what causes the market to increase. And that's what we've seen pretty much all through 2001 through 2016, with a couple of blips with the US banking crisis, and then another slowdown around 2011-2012 after the tsunami in Japan, of all things. The markets in the GVRD have pretty much shot straight up during that period of time. But then what happened was prices have just been become unaffordable for the average person. So there was a lot of political pressure on, first of all, the Clark government and now the Horgan government. So before the Liberals left office in the spring of 2016, what they did was they imposed a tax, the foreign buyers tax on foreign buyers. I'm not going to get into all the details of that tax, but that was the first thing they did to slow the market down. So that took place in August of 2016, and that immediately brought the detached housing market to a grinding halt. It slowed that market down dramatically, and what it did was it moved people that maybe 5-10 years ago would have bought a detached house in the suburbs to now buy a condo. So that was the first thing that happened. Since then, we've seen increased property transfer taxes on the high-end homes as well. So anything above $2 million now, you'll see increasing property transfer taxes, which is a provincial tax that we only have in British Columbia. Next few things that came along were speculation taxes, empty home taxes, and then earlier this year, the government introduced stress tests to make it harder for people to qualify for mortgages. One of the other things that we've got coming up as well in the Lower Mainland is that we are going to have not just the Lower Mainland, but all across Canada. It looks like we're going to have rising interest rates again. Since the trade agreement was reached with the Americans earlier this month, they're now saying that rise in interest rates will happen sooner rather than later. So where are we headed? What typically happens in this type of market? The first thing we'll see, and we're seeing, is rising inventories. And as there's more properties listed for sale, the less pressure we see on buyers. Buyers can step back and take their time, rather than the way it's been for years, where they walk into a place and they essentially had a few hours to decide whether they wanted to purchase their property. Buyers aren't under that kind of pressure anymore, because we have, as we've spoken of, rising inventories and less sales. Lots of people, when they list their home nowadays as well, they're expecting to get yesterday's prices from today's buyers, and that's not going to happen. That's one of the other reasons we're seeing prices rise. And what do I mean by that? Well, if they could have gotten $3 million, let's say it's a condo and they could have gotten $1.2 million for it earlier in the year, well, now they may only get $1.1 million, or maybe even below $1.1 million for it. So we're seeing a lot of sellers, and it's typical when markets decline, resist that. So those are the properties that are sitting on the market and not selling. Well-priced homes typically are selling. In fact, I've had a few have multiple offers on them still, even under these market conditions, because the sellers were motivated and priced them aggressively. Here's a question that I always like to go over with everyone. Is how do you know when a market has peaked? How do you know when it's at the top? Answer: when it's on the way down. And that's what we see with a lot of these other sellers that are coming into the marketplace. They think the market's peaked, so they want to rush in and get yesterday's price, as I mentioned before. But one of the things that affects that and will affect it is that these people forget about, the ones that are trying to sell at yesterday's prices, is that there's always people that have to sell for various reasons. Death, divorce, job transfer. And when those people do sell at the lower rates, just as people want the higher rate going up, well, coming down, buyers want to pay less each time than the last one sold for if the market's continuing to decline. How much will it decline? I've spoken to some very learned people that think about 15 to 20% maybe, worst case scenario. That's all speculation as well. These people that I've spoken to are realtors, just like myself. We are not economists. There's a million things that affect the market. But I did speak to one very learned fellow that is a realtor and an economist, who's a good friend of mine. He's going to sell his house. That's what he's up to. He's one of these people that thinks it's going to come off 15 to 20%. And he's going to rent it back because he's in an area where he can do it and save people from the empty home tax. So he feels there's a market for that. And then what else he told me was, and this is him speaking, not me, as soon as the NDP is gone, I'm going to buy a house again. That's a subject for another video that we'll have coming up. So if you're going to be buying, and now is the time that you should be buying, if you remember Warren Buffett's line, be fearful when others are buying and be buying when others are fearful. The next 12 to 18 months is the time for you to do it. You don't want to wait till it gets busy again, which is human nature. People say, oh, I don't want to buy into a declining market. Well, it doesn't matter if the market's declining because as this chart behind me shows, it always comes around. If it goes down, it always comes back. It never, or let's not say it never does. As far as history is concerned, it has never gone down and not come back. My opinion is, with living in a landlocked city where you can't build to the north because there's mountains, you can't build to the south because it's the US, you can't build to the west because there's water there, and everything east, all the land that isn't in the agricultural land reserve is used up, it's always going to be a great investment. The only thing that could screw this place up, in my opinion, is a major earthquake. That's the only thing that may affect it long term. So if you've gotten any useful information out of these videos that we send out, we'd appreciate it if you either subscribe to our YouTube page, or if you like this, or engage in some dialogue. Tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, and we'll have a mature, rational discussion about it. I'm Jamie Hooper with RE/MAX Crest, and if you'd like any further information, please feel free to contact us.